to light these. I think it's technically overarching because it is spelled with a CH, because arc and arch are different words. Anyway. Hey y'all, it's Alirien, and today we are reading our Western Zodiac horoscopes for the season of Mabon, which is the Autumn Equinox and the second and final harvest. As I explained in the mulled cider recipe video, which went up on Thursday, Mabon is a season of celebrating the abundance of the harvest, beginning to make the difficult decisions of how you're going to prepare for the dark and cold winter ahead, also honoring your ancestors and those who came before, as well as celebrating and recognizing the strength and resilience of the human spirit and how much you have already survived up until this point. We will be following the same format we usually do, where we read 3 cards plus the bottom of the deck from a Waite Smith inspired tarot deck, in this case the Beautiful Creatures Tarot by J.R. Rivera and Jasmine Becket-Griffith, as well as a single pull from an oracle style deck, though in this case instead of cards we will be using runes again. These are the lovely amethyst runes that I bought from the fortune teller booth at the Louisiana Renaissance Festival a few years ago. As the equinox brings us into Libra season, we will begin the readings with the sign of Libra and ending with the sign of Virgo. As with all of my tarot reading videos, take what resonates and leave the rest. If the reading resonates with you and speaks very closely to a situation you are going through, it is intended for you, and the advice therein is yours to take, to heed or not at your discretion for whatever you're going through. If nothing else, they serve as reflection for what you have been through. I do also want to remind you that I do offer personal tarot readings through my website, aliriencosplay.com. These readings start at $8 per session, depending on the type of reading and the length of time it will take. You can, at the time of booking, let me know if you have a particular question you want it to pertain to. Otherwise, it will be generally what advice the cards, runes, or otherwise have for you at that time. And you will receive a video recording of that reading to the email address you provide at booking. One last thing before we start, if you enjoy the video and you have not done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you never miss a video. It is free to subscribe on YouTube in spite of the misnomer of being called a subscription, and I am on the march up to 250 subscribers, so I would love if you would join the adventure here. All of that said, let's go ahead and shuffle the cards and begin with our Libra reading for Mabon. Oh wow. That leapt out of the deck, as did that one. Now that's a few too many, don't you think? I just need one more. I cannot spend 30 minutes on one side. Just one more. Whichever one's most important. Thank you. Oh, wow. First we have Libra, who has pulled the Transformation, 10 of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles, Inverted 9 of Swords, and the rune, Uruz. Libra's in a good spot right now. This is a good season for you. It's a sort of scenario where you've worked to reach this point, and now that you're at this point, there is almost no stopping it. The Transformation card at the bottom of the deck is the Death card. It signifies a very significant and important change. It is the end of a cycle. Based on the rest of the cards, I believe you are ending a cycle of bad luck. You are getting out of a bad situation. You are ending a cycle of any sort of worry about whatever this pertains to. This is very much a money-related thing, it's a career thing, it's a resource-related thing, right? It's your security. This next cycle, the next path, the next journey, the next goal is going to be much less focused on trying to earn security. You're going to be able to be freer to focus on something else that had to take a back seat to getting to this point where you feel so secure. and you feel so stable. You have the Ten of Pentacles, which is legacy. It is the epitome of that financial or job or home or resource security. It is also an indicator that you have kickstarted a legacy that you will be able to leave behind. You've worked hard, you've saved up so that you have that rainy day fund, but you don't need it. You have a good, solid job position. You've worked hard and well enough at this job that they want you, they like you, they're gonna keep you. And this also usually affects other people, not just yourself. You probably have friends or family who aren't necessarily leaning on you per se. They're not necessarily a true dependent, but you have been able to show time and again that you are stable and secure enough that you're willing to help out when you're able. Rarely will you feel the need to ask for anything in return, and they've noticed this and they appreciate it, and it's not the reason they stick around, but it's one more reason for them to stick around, because they know you've got their back when you're able to have it, and you've reached this point where you're more often able to have their back in that regard. The Knight of Pentacles, similarly, it's a card of servitude to a point. It often indicates that now is a time where in some way service is going to play in. Either you're going to need to overcome any hesitation to ask for help, like if you're in a situation where clearly you can't do it alone, have the strength and the courage to ask for help and let others serve you. More likely, I think it's probably going to be the other way around, where you're going to be asked to help someone else in some regard, possibly, but more so, it is a card of dedication, hard work, and routine. I think it's coming up both to assure you that this is what got you to this point. You've been dedicated, you've done the hard work, you've kept to enough of a routine that the abundance is flowing in, the prosperity is flowing in, and you are at a point where this transformation can happen and will happen. And as I said, there's very little that we'll be able to do at this point to stop it. I think the only thing you could do to stop it would be to just throw everything away and say, nope, none of this is working. We're just gonna act like none of that mattered. But I don't think you're about to do that, Libra. You're literally the scales of balance. You're the scales of justice. I think you tend to be level-headed enough that you're not just gonna, on a whim, throw everything to the wayside and start over. You've worked so hard to this point. Why would you do that? So the Knight of Pentacles is telling you, like, hey, you did the hard work, you proved your dedication, so this reward is coming to you, this reward is here for you, things are going to be better now. It's also reassuring you to stick to that a little bit longer, because the transformation card along with the 10 both indicate to me, like I said, that you are at the end of a cycle, you're at the end of something, you've reached some sort of pinnacle. There's also the thing of needing to think about what's next. And the Knight cards also are very high energy in what they are. You are meant to take what energy you have to help fuel the beginning of the next path, of the next goal. So you're supposed to use these qualities that have already gotten you this far in order to kickstart yourself toward the next thing that you deem most important. So think about, what is next? What is the next goal that I have set for myself that I need to reach? Let's keep going. I don't want to stall out too long and lose momentum and take forever to get going again. We reach this point, what's the next thing? And further telling me that you're in a really good spot right now is the Nine of Swords inverted. The Nine of Swords is a card of fear and anxiety, and usually very heavy fear and anxiety. This is the kind that affects your ability to sleep. This is the kind that makes it hard to really see the positive spin on things. Inverted, it indicates that you are finally getting out of that. You are moving on. You are at a point where you still have some of these anxieties or these fears, these worries, but they don't matter quite so much. You're in a good headspace where you can look at these fears and anxieties and go, yeah, I'm still worried about this. Yeah, I'm still afraid of this. But why am I gonna let that stop me? And you're not letting it stop you. And that's the important thing. And the fact that you're not letting it stop you is why you have all of this abundance here in the Two Pentacles cards, because Pentacles are earth. They are that material resource, that material security. You have big, good, important changes happening. The Uruz rune also fits perfectly into this. Uruz, or Aurochs, is a card of is a rune, sorry, not a card, it's totally not a card. It is a rune of survival, endurance, physical power, independence, persistence, and life force. And I think it just further sums up what you have demonstrated that has gotten you to this point and what you need to continue utilizing to keep going as you start toward the next goal. You have the power and the endurance to do it. You've reached a point where you're able to be a little more independent as you work toward this goal. You are capable of the persistence to do this. You're not having to work so hard just for survival. It's not all about survival with using your resources now. You're in a really good spot. Make the most of it. Enjoy this moment of recognition of, yeah, okay, I've reached a really good point. Let me enjoy this for a second. Decide what's next and fucking go for it. Scorpio, your reading has pulled the Habit inverted, the Hermit inverted, the Eight of Pentacles in reverse, and Four of Pentacles in reverse. Your rune is Gabo. Oh, Scorpio, we gotta talk. You are human. Humans are social creatures by default. Even the most introverted of introverts needs some social interaction, needs to connect with other people in order to truly be sane and whole and well. You either are on the precipice of going too far into isolation, or you're at a point where you're kind of starting to realize something's wrong, and this is meant to be the answer to help you further get out of a bad spot. The inverted Habit, which the Habit card is the Devil card. It's a card about dependency, which can include codependency. It's a card of excess. It often points to addiction, or at least complacency, in a situation where you have become too dependent on someone, or someone else has become too dependent on you. When inverted, it does signify that this dependency is starting to lift. The chains that have had you feeling trapped are starting to loosen. They're starting to let go. You are starting to recognize that this isn't a great scenario and you need to get out of it, whatever that entails. The focus right now needs to be on figuring out what further steps you can take to improve the situation. The Hermit talks about isolating and taking time for solitude, usually for self-reflection, to go within and better understand yourself, both strengths and weaknesses. Acknowledge the weaknesses and figure out how you can overcome them. Acknowledge the strengths and how better you can use them, that sort of thing. Learn the lessons that need to be learned. When inverted, it means that your introspection is going too far. You're starting to be so self-reflective and so solitary and isolated that it's beginning to tip the scale the wrong way. Rather than being positive for learning lessons and understanding yourself better, you're starting now to be self-deprecating. You're on the brink of falling into the abyss that is your own mind and your own emotional cycle. Whatever lessons you have learned, whatever has come of your self-reflection, you now need to start figuring out, how do I apply this in the bigger world? Because it's time to be part of the world again. You need to come back and be social with other people. You need to connect with friends and family and let them help you, let their relationships reinvigorate you. Similarly, the inverted Eight of Pentacles has you in a scenario where you have lost motivation, you've lost direction, you don't feel you have the drive to keep going. And so if you are continuing to work toward a goal, it's become less of you truly working toward your goal and more of you going through the motions just to get the work over with, which, again, is not healthy. For one, again, you need to talk with other people about what you're going through and see how they might be able to help. If nothing else, talking about your problems gets them out into the open. Hearing it out loud, even if the person you're talking to doesn't have an answer, can still have it go back into your own ears and go, okay, wait a second, that sounded off. Why did that sound off? You can still better process it. And if nothing else, having another person as that sounding board will help you feel less alone. And spending time with those people could help give you the energy you need again to really look at your goal and go, okay, we're working toward this. We're not just going through all the motions of the mundane day to day. We're not just going through routine because what else is there? We're going through this because there's a purpose. And I need to keep focused on that purpose. Again, owing to feeling cut off and feeling out of place with other people is the inverted Four of Pentacles. Essentially, it's a card that warns against overspending normally. In this case, you're not letting go. You're afraid to let go of resources. Since this, this is in a reading with the dependency card, perhaps someone you have felt somewhat dependent on is being the greedy person and is not wanting to let up. And so it's putting you in a rough position where you do actually really need some things, but you've become afraid to ask because you're assuming the answer is going to be no. And that's not healthy. Whoever you're dependent on either should be reasonable enough to understand, or it's time to really not be dependent on this person. Or vice versa, if you're the one who's being depended upon, you're being too afraid to spend any money on things that might not pay off, and you can't always think about it like that. Not every decision about what to do with your time or your energy or your money has to be so practically minded that you're focused on what the net gain or loss is. You can buy things just because you want them, even if they serve no purpose other than looking nice in your house or your car. You can get food because you like the taste of it, even if it's not necessarily the most nutritious. Things aren't so tight for you that you need to pinch every single penny. You're starting to move out of this state of feeling stuck. These are things you can focus on to help. And I think all of them tie back to the Hermit first and foremost. You need to not isolate so much. Make the time and the effort to interact with other people outside of a purely professional scenario. We do have Gebo as your rune, which is a rune of exchange, sacrifice, sacred union, innate talent, and generosity. The sacrifice has been made in pulling away to deal with some things already, I think. It is also a rune that means gift. I think there is an innate talent you have that you should, at this point, recognize, having spent so much time to yourself lately, that is needed in the world right now. It could simply be that one person in your life needs your help in regard to this talent. It could be something bigger than that. You will know what the scenario is when it comes up, but the point is that you need to focus on continuing to move out of this dependency or codependency, this addiction, so that that innate talent can be applied out in the world to make not only the world better in whatever capacity, but make your own life better too. Because if nothing else, you will be reassured by knowing you've put it to good use. It is a rune of generosity, which again ties in with the inverted Four of Pentacles. Don't pinch every single penny. Don't be so worried about money that you never do anything with it. And I think sacred union also ties into the need to be social again and talk with other people. Turn to your friends, your family, whatever that entails. You can't go about your whole life so drawn within yourself that you can only ever see things from your own perspective. Come back into the world, Scorpio. Sagittarius has drawn for their Mabon reading inverted Six of Wands, inverted Transformation, reversed Ace of Pentacles, and inverted Five of Cups. The rune you have pulled is Kenaz. There's a little bit of everything going on with Sagittarius here. The inverted Six of Wands being your main focus normally is a card of victory. In this case, it is a card of self-doubt, a lack of recognition or award, or even a punishment of some kind. In some regard, you have either worked hard enough that you should have reached some sort of recognition, some sort of reward, some achievement, and either it hasn't been given to you as promised, or you feel that what you did receive was not enough. In some way, you feel you did not receive what you earned. And this is causing doubt to linger or surface or resurface. And it's that doubt that is potentially going to cause some problems. I think that you are in a scenario where you should do what you can not to let yourself doubt your capability. I'm actually going to jump to the rune for a second here, because the Kanaz rune means torch. It represents knowledge, craft, tradition, fire, hearth, and experience. I think the rune is serving to remind you that you have the knowledge and the experience to achieve your goal. You are keeping to a tradition or a routine. You are fully involved and passionate of your craft. That's also the fire aspect. And I think it works well hand in hand with the Six of Wands, because the wand suit is the suit of fire. It's a suit of passion and creativity and action. I think that your work and your fight toward this goal and this achievement has been very slow and long fought and hard fought. And I think you're starting to get very tired of how many times you've been told to just keep going. Perhaps smaller goals need to be set. Less focus needs to be put on the amount of time that has been invested. I think perhaps you've been told too many stories of people who got there faster, and it's sitting in your head making you wonder what you must be doing wrong to have not achieved the same thing. It's even possible that the scenario you're in keeps getting stacked against you, however much to your knowledge. You are being reassured that the hard work is not missed. The universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, sees very clearly how much you care and how much you've put into this. Even if the people on the human side who have some say in this don't recognize it or aren't doing enough to reward you for the work. But you should not doubt yourself in this scenario. You have the knowledge and the experience to get there, and the work will pay off. That said, the rest of your reading indicates some areas where there are shortcomings that perhaps in addressing them could help tip the scale back into balance. The transformation in reverse, which the transformation is the death card, represents a transition or a change that needs to happen that for whatever reason has been avoided. Either you haven't yet seen what needs to change, or you have and you're trying to put it off or trying to move forward without making this change, whatever that might be. And so it's probably worth looking into what areas you might be able to make these changes in order to improve your chances at actually receiving the reward or recognition that should have earned by now. The One of Pentacles, the Ace of Pentacles, which is a card of abundance and new opportunity, in reverse signifies a missed opportunity or a lost chance at something. It's possible you haven't actually missed it yet, but you are perhaps, in spending so much time doubting yourself because of what hasn't gone your way, you are perhaps going to miss it as it walks right past you. In recentering and rebalancing and recognizing, no, I am capable, things just haven't quite gone my way yet. Is there something else I can do to get it to go my way? You will better be able to be open and vigilant for this opportunity, and thus be able to actually make the best of it when it presents itself. Alternatively, if this is signifying an opportunity that has passed you by, that you are perhaps mourning because, wait, that could have been it, that could have been the big break, you are urged not to let yourself get caught in grieving what could have been. Focus on what is and what still can be, and on making what can be what is. The inverted Five of Cups is a point in the right direction, however. The Five of Cups usually is grief and regret. When inverted, it signifies that you're starting to move out of that period of regret and grief and recognize what you still have that you can make the most of. What can you still move forward with? You're at this point. You are recognizing, not everything went my way, that's okay. It wasn't my only chance. It doesn't mean that just because I haven't gotten what I deserve yet that I never will get it. So let's keep trying. Let's take advantage of what I do have, the knowledge and experience you've already accumulated and put into work to get to where you are, even if it's not where you want to be, and keep working toward where I want to be, where I need to be. I believe transformation and Ace of Pentacles inverted are signifying part of what was in your way. Might still be in your way, but I think it's more of a, here's why you weren't going anywhere for so long. But you're at the point where you're starting to see this and you're starting to make the right moves, however big or small. So right now you need to focus on not letting self-doubt creep in and muddle your vision. Don't let it demotivate you. Don't let it push you off the path again. And keep the knowledge that you have, the knowledge and the experience and the fire within yourself to reach this goal. You are capable of getting there. Do not take every second you haven't reached it yet as a sign that you might never reach it and thus should give up. None of the universe's messages to you thus far have been intended to make you think you should give up. Have faith in yourself and your capabilities, and keep taking however many steps, however big or small. You will get there in time. Capricorn has pulled Knight of Wands in reverse, Two of Swords in reverse, King of Pentacles inverted, and the Strength in reverse. Your rune is Degaz. I think that Capricorn is dealing with some amount of hopelessness or blindness, or is coping with something ending that you possibly weren't ready for, or you feel you weren't ready for. Because Degaz can at times represent that hopelessness, that blindness, but it can also represent hope and realization. It's an awakening and an awareness coming into fruition. It basically signifies the beginning and the end of a cycle, being that it is a complete loop, even though that loop crosses on itself. I think that ties in very well with what's going on here. The inverted Knight of Wands, your main theme, your underlying concern, signifies desire. It signifies an anger, a recklessness, impulsiveness, recklessness, anger. It's consequences not being quite fully considered before acting. And it's possible you're recognizing this in yourself, and it's potentially tipping the scale the opposite direction, where you're concerned now that you're gonna fuck everything up, so you're avoiding acting, hence the Two of Swords being inverted. It's confusion. The Two of Swords usually is one of the cards in the tarot that represents a choice needing to be made. Usually when the Two of Swords comes up in that regard, though, it's one that is a much more difficult choice to examine all the facets of, and when reversed, usually it's a choice where neither option is really a good option. It's a scenario where you don't like any of the potential outcomes and thus any of the options that lead to them, but you're gonna have to pick the one that is the least harmful. It's picking the lesser of two evils, essentially. But you're avoiding making this decision either because you're hoping that new information is going to come to light that makes one of the options actually seem good, or you're just avoiding making it because you know you don't like any of the options. I promise you that if life makes the decision for you, you're not going to like it any better. You can at least perhaps be content knowing that I made the best choice I could at the time with the information I had and with the potential outcomes that were in front of me. Consider everything you know and get the decision over with, because that will open you up to move forward with whatever is left when the choice is made. The inverted King of Pentacles, similarly, is greed, indulgence. It indicates feeling a need to define yourself by what you have or have not, rather than all of the other intangible qualities. You're too focused on the material and not enough on the immaterial. Inverted strength, very clearly, you are doubting your own strength and your own capability to get through whatever situation is in front of you. I have a feeling that something went in a way that you weren't prepared for. Either something ended in a way that you couldn't immediately cope with, or there's some new road you're trying to go down, but you're very, very uncertain of it. And that uncertainty is what's kind of causing a lot of this other behavior. You're not able to let yourself be optimistic because you're too worried about the what ifs and the things that you're scared about coming true. So at times you're being impulsive, at other times you're procrastinating and holding back on making any decisions or any moves one way or another. And neither of these is healthy. One of the things Degas represents is the concept of balance. It is beginnings and ends because it is the whole cycle and it is everything balanced. And it, I think in this case, represents in terms of that awakening and that awareness. You need to have that awakening. You need to gain that awareness of how you're acting and how it's not helping the situation and how it might in fact be worsening the situation. It is true that you cannot control everything and thus you can't account for everything. Focus on controlling what you can. Focus on moving toward the outcomes that you can plan for, that you like, or doing what you can that is actually in your control to avoid the outcomes you don't want. And if there's very little you can do outside of decisions that present themselves when they present themselves, then there's no need to keep worrying about it. At least there's no need to let that worry or that fear stop you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the realization that something else is more important than fear, and the decision to act in spite of that fear. I know this is a difficult decision to make. I know that no path leading out from where you are seems safe, but you are entirely capable of navigating it. You just need to come back to center and look at everything else you've already been through so far. Look at how many things you've survived, for better or worse. And even the bad decisions, even the mistakes, you have survived and you've learned from them and you've grown and you've gotten to this place. You can take this time to look at the situation and grow and learn from it and make the best possible decision out of a bunch of bad decisions. You can choose the path that is the least harmful, and you will still be okay. You will come out of the other side, but you will ultimately feel better if you take your time, look at the consequences, look at everything, and make the decision yourself instead of leaving it for anything or anyone else to decide for you. You have to follow your own path and leave everything you can't control to the entities that can. Aquarius has drawn for Mabon, Queen of Cups, the inverted Judgment, the reversed Nine of Wands, and inverted Page of Pentacles. Your rune is Kenaz. This is another one that delves into themes of needing to be kinder to yourself. The Queen of Cups as your bottom card means that your focus right now needs to be listening to your intuition as well as having compassion and kindness and being open to listening to others. This does also mean that you need to make sure you're being compassionate and kind with yourself, because it is in being in tune with ourselves that our intuition can work best. Kenaz also, it's a rune that means torch. It symbolizes knowledge, craft, tradition, fire, hearth, and experience. You need to remember how much knowledge and experience you have, and you need to not let the fire and passion within yourself to reach your goals, to follow your path, go out. And I think you are at risk of having that happen right now, Aquarius. The inverted Judgment card, which is normally a card of opportunity or reflection, signifies a lack of self-awareness. It's doubt and perhaps even self-loathing. I think you are doubting yourself and your ability to keep everything in check, to balance all the worries and responsibilities you have with taking care of yourself and relaxing or having fun at times. The inverted Knight of Wands similarly is a card of stamina. You're burned out, you're exhausted. It's no wonder you're doubting yourself. You're too tired to keep up with everything. So of course you're struggling to believe you can keep up with everything. You need rest, and you need to not beat yourself up over taking that rest. And finally, the inverted Page of Pentacles represents laziness, impracticality, or daydreaming. I think in some ways you're accusing yourself of being lazy when you need rest and end up having to take it whether you like it or not, but you're also so exhausted and so overwhelmed with all of the things that need to get done and be taken care of that a bit of procrastination is coming in as well. Or perhaps it's the impracticality that I think it's the impracticality that's winning out here. I think you are so focused on all of the pins you need to keep in the air, that you are trying too hard for too long to handle everything to the point where you're at the risk of dropping everything because you're getting tired of the juggling act, but you're not taking the time to recognize when you're tired and take rest when it's necessary. You're not taking care of yourself. So your body is forcing you to rest when it can't take it anymore, in spite of you in your head thinking that you can go on longer or believing you have to go on longer in spite of the fatigue. Forced breaks from your body because you've pushed it too far are not the same as looking at what you've accomplished and going, okay, I have done enough for today. I can take a break. There is a difference, and I think you're not seeing it. And if you keep going like this, well, of course you're going to keep doubting yourself. You keep working yourself so hard that you can't go as long as you have set the standard for yourself to go. You need to be kinder to yourself. You need to have compassion for yourself. You need to take care of yourself. Your intuition, I think, has been trying to tell you when you need breaks, when you need to prioritize your own needs and wants. When you start choosing to take care of yourself and take breaks, let yourself rest, that, I think, will help to feed that fire and that passion. That combined with, again, the recognition that you have the knowledge and the experience to achieve whatever you set out to do. Let that reinvigorate you so that when the break is done and it's time to work again, you have that much more energy to go. Pisces, your reading is 4 of Swords in reverse, 3 of Pentacles, King of Swords, 7 of Swords inverted, and the reversed rune of Awaz. Pisces, similarly to a couple other signs, is not properly taking care of oneself. In this regard, however, it's very clearly a twofold message. You need to take time to rest in spite of how stressed you are, and you need to reach out to other people to help you. Inverted 4 of Swords very clearly states that you are stressed, you are burnt out, you are exhausted. You need rest, especially for your mind. Your brain needs a break. The 3 of Pentacles and Awaz both represent partnership, teamwork, trust. Awaz is also a rune that represents horse. It's love, emotion, it's animals. When inverted, it signifies conflict. It signifies trust that's been misplaced in some way or that's been betrayed. Crisis-like changes in some regard. I think it's perhaps misplaced trust or conflict. The 3 of Pentacles indicates teamwork and a need for it. I think the inverted Awaz is both saying you need to work with other people, but be careful who you choose to go to. I think you are perhaps in one of these situations, and the 7 of Swords also tells me this, even reversed. I think you're in a situation where your options for people to help you are between people who will help you, but they're gonna hang it over your head, they're gonna be mean about it, they're gonna make you feel like you're the worst person in the world for even needing help. Or people who will graciously, out of pure kindness, say, absolutely, tell me what I can do. And will never bat an eye at why you need the help. Who cares why you need help? You need help. I care. I'm here. What can I do? How can I help? And you need to make sure that you are turning to the latter group of people, not the former. Because I think that former group of people is going to put you in an even worse mental state than you currently are in. And that's not to say you're terribly off. The inverted 4 of Swords is the main thing that points to you having some things to address. It's mostly you need rest. And you need to make sure you're letting yourself rest. Don't let whatever's stressing you out convince you that you need to stay up all night and push yourself too much harder than you already have been. The King of Swords is intellect. The King of Swords represents intellect, power, honor. I think it represents that you do have the mental fortitude to get through whatever you're facing right now. You are smart enough. And not just smart enough, because that always sounds a little bit juvenile to say, oh, you're smart. You are an intellectual through and through. And it is that intellect that is going to get you through this one way or another. Somehow or other, you're going to figure out through not only your intellect, but the clarity of mind that you are so capable of. You're gonna figure out the best way to prioritize everything that you need to do and to time out everything you need to do And you're gonna figure out a way to do it on top of making time for yourself to take breaks and be present in all the other parts of your life that are important to you. The inverted Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords typically is a card of betrayal, of treachery. Often it indicates someone in the situation acting in a very unsavory way. Often it can represent that we ourselves are the culprit, but not necessarily. When inverted, it's a desire for change. It's the pure want to turn over a new leaf, whatever that means. Either you have been acting in ways you're not proud of, and you very much, almost desperately, want to fix it and start over, or perhaps someone else involved wants to instigate this change in order to help you out, or for their own reasons, whatever it might be. But there is a desire for change. There's a desire to fix this and get past this. It urges that honesty and transparency are going to be very important right now, moving forward. This is very much a mental battle for you right now, Pisces. A lot of this is going to be something that you have to figure out in your own head, but you aren't alone. The Three of Pentacles is here to remind you that while a lot of this is very much your own wheelhouse, and whoever you turn to for help might not necessarily be able to help outside of being a support system and cheering you on from the sideline, you do still have people you can turn to do that, so you don't feel so alone, and perhaps you feel way less stressed about the things you need to get done. But do not doubt that you are absolutely capable of overcoming this obstacle, of catching up on whatever the work is, if it's something that's been delayed. You are fully capable of getting through this and still taking care of yourself. And when it's done and you've reached the point that you're aiming for, you'll be able to rest even easier. Don't overwork yourself, and have faith in the strength and clarity of your mind to get you through. Aries is also struggling to keep their eyes on the prize. We have Eight of Pentacles in reverse, King of Swords, Hierophant, the inverted star, Nine of Wands inverted, and Awaz. Your inverted Eight of Pentacles is your main theme, and it tells me that right now the big thing going on for you is a lack of motivation. You've lost your direction, you've lost your drive. You're not continuing to work toward your goal. With the goal in sight, you're continuing to go through the motions of working toward your goal, and thus you're not actually making any progress right now. You're just doing work for work's sake. King of Swords is, as we just explained with Pisces, a card of intellect. It's power and it's honor. It signifies that you have the presence and clarity of mind and the intellect needed to reach your goal. The Hierophant as well indicates a need to stick to a moral or ethic code, whatever that might be for you. It's tradition, and it often also indicates a mentor, particularly in a spiritual sense, that might need to be leaned on a little bit. It is tradition and teachings. Now's not the time to break the mold, essentially. More so, I think your code and your traditions that you value are going to be the important thing here. The inverted star is a loss of hope, plain and simple. The inverted Knight of Wands is fatigue. It's burnout. You're exhausted. Awaz is a rune of trust, relationships, change, support, teamwork. I think you, like many of the other signs that we've already read for so far, are getting very tired, perhaps, of how long it's taking to reach your goal. You're tired. And that exhaustion with the sort of lack of hope that has either had a hand in making you exhausted or come about from being exhausted, the insecurity, the discouragement. I think perhaps you were so eager to reach your goal that you went a little too hard for a little too long. You're getting tired, so now you're starting to doubt if you can actually reach that goal. You can absolutely reach that goal. You've got the strength of mind and the strength of conviction to do so. You're just tired and you need a little bit of a break. But you're so focused on how tired you are that it now suddenly feels like you just can't get there. So what's the point? But you don't want to stop because you know you shouldn't. That's that conviction and those ethics, those morals. That's that code that you're sticking to. I'm not going to give up. I'm never going to give up. How dare I consider giving up? That's that Aries stubbornness, right? But that is butting heads, all but literally, with the fatigue and the doubt and the insecurity of, can I actually reach my goal though? I'm not gonna stop going for it, but can I reach it though? Why am I continuing to do this? Well, I gotta keep doing it. I'm not gonna give up, but is there a point to doing it? It's this back and forth. And the cards right here are reminding you that you absolutely can. The fatigue means you need to take a break, whether you like it or not. But taking a break doesn't mean you're giving up. You're not gonna have to start over. Just put everything down right where you are, walk away for 5-10 minutes a day, and come back when your energy's returned. Come back when you can refocus on the goal and why you want it so badly. Why it matters so much that you refuse to stop working for it, even though it feels like you're never gonna get there. Come back when you've gotten it through your thick, stubborn, ram-headed skull that you are intelligent enough, you are clear enough, and you are dedicated enough to do it. This trust that this rune is talking about, it needs to be trust in yourself that you can get there, no matter how long it takes. But you're not gonna get there if you work yourself to the bone. I feel like a lot of my readings end up boiling down to, you just need a break right now. Come back when you're feeling better. But this is essentially, again, what it is. Take a break, get better, and then keep going. Trust in yourself and your intellect and your code. Taurus, you have pulled for Mabon the Moon inverted, 7 of Cups in reverse, the inverted Justice, Page of Wands, and like several others, the rune Awaz. I believe that you are in a bit of Delulu land right now. The inverted Moon and the inverted 7 of Cups both are representative of delusion, illusion, confusion, misinterpretation. I think in some way, some situation has occurred where you're not quite getting all sides of the story, or you're too fixated on one side. And I think that's also where this inverted justice is coming from as well. Justice is concerned with proper consequences for every action. It is concerned with honesty, and you reap the reward of what you sow in every interaction out into the world, whatever that might entail. So when justice is reversed, it's dishonesty, it's unaccountability, it's unfairness. There's either some way in which you've had a hand in this situation that you're not admitting to yourself. You are part of the problem, but you refuse to see that you're part of the problem. Or you're blowing something up out of proportion. Something has happened that you're not happy with, but you're letting it take over your entire forethought right now, to the point where you're not focusing on anything else. And you're so focused on it, you almost seem like you're in the process of making that tinfoil hat to permanently stick to your head, because somehow or other, every single little thing that happens or that comes up with anyone else that's involved in this, somehow for you is coming back to this incident. And it's not all necessarily connected like that. There are coincidences in this world. Not every single little iota that happens is part of some big plan to screw you over. The Page of Wands, in stark contrast, is exploration. It's excitement. It's freedom. It represents the recognition and knowledge that there is so much in this world that can fill you with awe and wonder. There is so much about this world that can make you happy, but you're so holed up in over concern for this one thing that has happened, and how you feel wronged, and you had no control over it. You had nothing to do with it. You are the one who's been wronged. And it's almost playing victimhood, or if nothing else, you're trying to start a crusade over it where there is no need for one. You don't even have a horse, let alone armor. How are you gonna crusade against this as one person? It's not even that big of a deal. Awaz, in this case, is pulling from the emotional aspect. You have caught yourself letting your emotions get the better of you. And while I don't think it was misguided, I think you meant well. You've tipped a little too far down this path. It's time for you to get your emotions in check. Recognize that there's so much more to the world and to your life and to current events than whatever this thing is that pissed you off. Recognize how you may have had a hand in what happened, Try to be open-minded to all the other perspectives and sides of the story. Find the truth in the middle. Because remember, there are at least 3 perspectives to every single story. Yours, theirs, and the truth somewhere in between. But more so, I think it's time for you to move on. It is time to move on from this and focus on more important things that will actually get something done toward the goals you have and help you along the path you're on right now. Because this ain't it. I think you also need to reestablish some trust between yourself and others in your life, particularly anyone else who's involved in the situation. I think perhaps whatever happened and your reaction to it has caused a rift. Amends need to be made to resolve this rift, or at least reduce it. Reevaluate the situation and then move on. Gemini has drawn the inverted Empress, 9 of Cups, the Habit, 8 of Cups, and the inverted Kenaz rune. Gemini's is tricky. The inverted Empress is often representative of dependency, smothering and emptiness, needing to nurture your own needs in order to restore balance and recenter. And the Habit points to the same thing. It is also dependency. It's often a card related to addiction or excess in some way. Something has gotten out of hand, or you're overdoing something in some way. And the 8 of Cups makes sense with this as well. It's a card of needing to walk away, moving on, leaving behind emotional baggage, and you're either recognizing that and making the steps to move on, or it is the next thing you need to do if you haven't started doing it already. The 9 of Cups is interesting here because it's a card of luxury and joy. I'm thinking somewhere within here there's some sort of revelry, there's some sort of treatment that you're getting right now that's actually doing more harm than good, because I think the 9 of Cups is either how you're coping to kind of ignore what's going on, you're letting yourself just indulge to ignore the problem, or you're being compelled to indulge and you're being weighted on hand and foot. I almost wonder, this could be a relationship thing because it is 2 cups cards, and that's relationships and emotion. I almost wonder if you're being love bombed in some way right now, that you're in some sort of relationship or situation. The other side is doing everything it can to convince you not to go and to keep you dependent and to keep you in the situation where you feel like you need to stay for whatever reason. Having been there myself, Gemini, get the fuck out before it gets worse and you have even more hanging over your head. You need to cut this off. You either need to have a conversation with this person and be real with each other about, look, we need to be honest about what we expect from each other and find a resolution. The 8 of Cups says you need to get the fuck out, because if you haven't fallen into it already, you are at risk of being so smothered with love and with gifts and with affection in this situation that it's going to be even harder to get out the longer this goes on. You are going to become dependent on this person in a way that lets them control you. That's not okay. Inverted Kenaz is ignorance, disinterest, delay, or failure. I think it's either pointing to some disinterest from the other party. They're not actually that interested in your emotional well-being, you as a person. They're interested in how they can use you. Or it's the ignorance that you have to what's really going on. And you need this reading now more than ever. Get the fuck out. Oh God. You do not know how wholly I am feeling this right now. Having been in at least one situation similar to this, you need to get out, whatever it takes. Get in touch with friends or family that you can try to go stay with for a while. Start however slowly or quickly. If you can pack your stuff and get out fast, do it. If it hasn't even gotten to that stage, if this is like you're talking and starting to date and things like that, if conversation can be had reasonably with the other party, by all means have it. But if you've tried it and it hasn't worked, or you're quite sure that this person will not be reasonable and won't listen and will turn the conversation in a way that makes you the villain, it's time to go. Fuck the conversation, go. Depending on you and the people who actually care about you will know best what to do here, as in terms of how much closure you give the other side. But you need to get out of this situation by either fixing it and getting the other person to stop, or by leaving. This is likely a romantic, platonic, or familial relationship in some way. That's very much what I'm feeling right now. But yeah, Gemini, you gotta get out. You gotta get out now. Cancer, you have drawn the Emperor inverted, Knight of Cups, the Magician, Two of Swords in reverse, the Temperance inverted, and the rune Othala inverted. There's some good and some bad for Cancer. Inverted Emperor being your main theme, it's a card of typically tyranny, rigidity, or coldness. I think in this case, you're clinging a little bit too much to structure, to concepts of order, of things working out in a certain time in a certain way. I almost wonder if you're trying to schedule everything in your life, and you can't do that. Life is, by its nature, chaotic, more so than it is structured. There is a structure and a pattern to life, to history, to biology, but there is just as much that isn't structured, that can't be controlled or planned for. You can predict things, but even the best meteorologists don't really know how a storm's gonna go. Clinging so hard to this structure you have in your head and this plan is going to cause you to be kind of short-sighted and be actually less able to deal with any way in which events skew out of that. And if you're too focused on the one plan instead of having some contingencies, you're really only going to cause yourself stress in the end. You don't need to control and dominate everything. Just focus on what is actually in your purview and do the best you can to fall within whatever timeline you have in your head. But don't get distraught if something is 5 seconds late. On that note, we do have the Knight of Cups, which is a card of empathy. It also signifies diplomacy, romance, and charm. And it's a reminder that beauty and wonder is everywhere around you. I think if you find some time to go into nature, to talk with friends and family, to connect with things that don't need to be functional or practical or structured, that will help you loosen up and kind of refocus on what you can control and hopefully come to terms with letting go of everything else. The Magician likewise reminds you that while you've been so focused on everything going a very specific way, this is bringing up some worry about, well, what about this, or this if it doesn't go the way that I plan, and what if this fucks up, and then I can't do this, and then that can't happen, and this is gonna happen, and will be a conflict. You have more agency than you realize, and you are far more capable of navigating those situations where things go not according to plan than you're giving yourself credit for. How many times in your life have you already been through something where the plan didn't go the way that you had planned it, but you got through it, right? Didn't you learn something from that scenario? If nothing else, you should learn that you're capable of going with the flow and being flexible, adapting and improvising. You have all the skill and capability to achieve the goal that you have set out for yourself, regardless of how many obstacles or delays occur. That said, the Two of Swords does say there's a very important decision that you are facing right now, and that is possibly part of why you're so concerned with trying to figure out how everything's gonna go. The inverted Two of Swords usually indicates the kind of decision that we're avoiding, at least in part because there is no single right answer that is better than the other. You're almost having to choose between the lesser of two evils, the one that's less difficult or less painful. If nothing else, you're confused about your options. So while trying to figure out some of what the potential consequences of the decision will be, depending which way you go, is a good thing. You should consider consequences before you act. You cannot, by dint of human nature, know every single thing that's going to happen on the other side of every single decision you could ever possibly make. Focus on what you do know about the situation and make the best possible choice with what you have to work with. And just make sure that it's you making the decision for yourself and not someone else or life itself. Inverted Temperance denotes, as is evident by the Emperor and the Two of Swords, you've fallen out of balance a little bit. You're letting some things be so heavily focused on, and other things are kind of falling to the wayside. You probably don't want to actually fall away and take a back seat. As you're taking time to consider this decision, also make sure you're making time not only to take care of yourself and all of your basic needs, physically, mentally, and emotionally, but make sure that you're making as equivalent of time as possible for taking care of yourself, taking care of others, for work and for relaxation or play. You cannot be whole if you are singly faceted. Inverted Othala points to some similar concerns: insecurity, being stuck in the past, or needing to resolve dispute. When upright, it typically points to home, family, introspection, ancestors even. I think there is some sort of dispute, whether internal or external, that needs to be resolved, and there's some insecurity that needs to be addressed here. I think the insecurity is that you're just afraid of the unknown right now, and that's perfectly normal. We as human beings, it's one of our most natural fears, is to be afraid of that which we do not know or do not understand. It's where a lot of historic conflicts have come from. Through a lot of good and bad history, we come to realize that these things make us different. They don't necessarily make us bad. We've come to understand, and thus the fear is removed. Likewise, you can be afraid and worried about that which you cannot account for and that which you do not know or understand, but you should never let it stop you. As I've mentioned time and time again, courage is not the absence of fear. It's the realization that something else is more important than fear, and the resolve to continue on in spite of it. Acknowledge that which you do not know about what is to come, but recognize that at least right now, you probably know enough to make this decision, however comfortable it may or may not be. Plan for what you can plan for. Have contingencies for the few things you can think about that might not go your way, but be open to improvising and adapting should things go a way that you didn't expect. Leo, you have pulled for Mabon. King of Wands in reverse. 3 of Swords in reverse. 9 of Swords. 1 of Swords in reverse. Othala in reverse. You cannot move forward effectively if you continue to stare in your rearview mirror, is probably the most concise way I could put this. Not that there's that much more to it, really, at least not from what I know. I only know what the cards are telling me. I don't know your individual situation. Inverted King of Wands is an overbearing nature. It's impulsivity. It's unachievable expectation. It's too heavy a focus on trying to be perfect and not enough on being proud of progress. Inverted 3 of Swords is a bit of a light here. 3 of Swords typically is a grief or a heartbreak, so when inverted, it points to recovery beginning and starting to kind of get out of the throes of that grief. You're starting to move on. At least the want to move on and get better is there. I'm not sure if enough steps have been made quite yet to really start that journey though. Like I said, the inverted King of Wands alone points to there being some sort of serious insecurity. I think perhaps your vision of how you want whatever this is to work out is maybe a little unrealistic, maybe a lot unrealistic. In some way, you've set the bar too high for yourself, or for someone else, or for the situation in general. The 9 of Swords very clearly tells me that you're very anxious and perhaps even fearful about whether or not you can actually recover from this. You want to, but you're not sure you can. If you can, how long will it take? And you're not happy that it might take a while. It's gonna take longer than you anticipate at least. You're still very, very caught up in anxiety, fear, perhaps even depression about whatever occurred. Inverted Ace of Swords further points to confusion, perhaps even chaos. You're not thinking straight. Inverted Othala, as with the previous reading for Cancer, is insecurity, being stuck in the past, and needing to resolve dispute. There is a resolution or closure that you still need before you can actually move forward. It's perhaps a debate within yourself of how to go about this. If a resolution or the closure that you need can be reached, how do you go about trying to get it? If it's that much up in the air whether you can get that closure, do you even attempt to? Or do you accept that you may never get the resolution that you want? Perhaps you are recognizing in some way that the resolution you want is probably not the resolution that's going to occur. Can you come to terms with that? Can you accept what you do get, if anything at all, and move on with it, having learned from the situation, regardless of whether you like it? There's one of two things that needs to happen for you, Leo. One of two things that you need to be prepared to do. You either pull yourself up by the bootstraps and have that conversation to resolve whatever conflict or gain or create whatever closure, or you just need to recognize that a resolution will never be reached or that closure will never be gained, and thus the resolution is to just learn what you can from what happened, let go of everything else that you have no answer for, move on. You either need to be a big enough person to have that difficult conversation, or you just need to accept that things didn't go the way you wanted or needed. Things did not go well. How can I do better based on what I know? Just move forward. The want to recover is there. I see it. But you're getting too hung up in trying to decide what to do in order to recover. And you're just gonna have to make a decision. Because if you keep wallowing in the anxiety and the fear and the depression and the confusion and the insecurity, your luck will not turn back around in your favor for a while. You need to make a decision so you can start looking forward instead of looking back. And last but certainly not least, we have Virgo, who has pulled Ten of Cups, the Emperor, Knight of Swords inverted, Six of Pentacles inverted, and the rune, Manaz. Virgo's doing alright right now. I think there's some risk of letting the good kind of get to your head, maybe. The Ten of Cups, being your bottom card of the deck, is a fantastic card to have. It is emotional fulfillment. It's contentment. You are in the best season of your life in terms of your emotions and your relationships right now. It also, being a 10, indicates that something new is around the corner. Start thinking about what's next and preparing for it. The Emperor is a card of structure, discipline, authority, fatherhood. It's a card of being wise and devoted enough to set and protect your boundaries and to be able to let go of the things that you can't control. You're in a really good space right now. The inverted Knight of Swords does hint at a lack of direction, disregard for consequence, or unpredictability. It indicates maybe that there's a bit of impatience creeping in for whatever reason. You're perhaps getting to a point where you're feeling really good about your current situation. You're maybe getting to a point where you feel like nothing can touch you. Nothing could possibly go wrong. And so you're perhaps not quite being mindful enough of what you say, or at least you're being warned that as good as you feel, make sure you are still mindful of what you say, how you treat others. Six of Pentacles further, make sure that there is a balance between giving and taking in all of your relationships right now. Particularly, I would say with work life. Pentacles is connected to money, work, etc. I think make sure you're not giving too much to your job, but make sure you're also doing what is expected of you. Manaz is a rune of creativity, intelligence, self-work, and decisions. I think perhaps what's pointed to here, I think it's a little twofold with the rune. The Swords is a suit of mind, its intellect, its wit. It makes sense hand in hand with the Emperor, because the Emperor's position is one of either being able to knight someone or being able to strike them down. I think you're going to need to pull on your intelligence and your creativity to navigate some sort of decision that might be coming up. It's not evident in these cards. It's mostly the rune that hints at this. But I think there's a decision you're going to be faced with, and you need to make sure that you are considering all facets of it and not just your own perspective on it, and try to make sure that whatever decision is made is as balanced as possible in terms of benefit to all parties involved, if that makes sense. That said, enjoy this contentment, and just be mindful of what might be coming next. And there we have our 12 horoscopes for the season of Mabon for 2024. I do hope at least one of the readings herein has helped you and provided some much needed insight or guidance for you as we navigate this season toward Samhain. And I hope you all have the best of blessings that Mabon and this harvest season can offer you. And I'll see you all for more at Samhain. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, you can find buttons and links scattered around the page to show me that love. If nothing else, I do hope you will subscribe to the channel as we march up to 250 subs. Because remember, subscribing on YouTube is free, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a video. If you'd like to see more content like this, I do have a playlist of all of my divination videos in the cards and in the description below. And once again, remember, I do offer personal tarot readings through my website, aliriancosplay.com, which you can find in the link tree, also in the description. If you'd like to keep up with my adventures on other social media planes, again, check that link tree where you can find portals to all of those realms. And as always, I'd like to give a special thanks to my coven of patrons who continue to be my biggest supporters. If you, dear viewer, would like to join their ranks, again, check that link Linktree for my Patreon portal, where pledges start at $1 a month. Thanks so much again. Stay tuned for more Sybil garb sewing vlogs and gaming footage, and I will see you all again very soon. Keep aiming, my loves, and blessed harvest. Mwah. Bye, y'all.